been. But then one thing to note on the chronic wounds, why we call them chronic, is because maybe they have been they actually go and come, go and come, go and come, or they have just refused to heal over time, or they have worsened over time. So they're called chronic wounds. All right. So I went ahead to explain to you that these wounds can affect either the top layer of your skin, or depending on to what extent has the thickness of the skin been affected, then you'll know how deep the wound is. And the deeper the wound, the more complicated it can be. The reason being that the top layer of your skin does not contain a lot of things as compared to the dermis and maybe the other things that are inner in your skin. Yeah. So you'll get that if you have a wound that has just affected the superficial layer, that wound will heal easily, as compared to a wound that has gone deeper to the dermis or the other tissues. Other wounds, I told you that they have gone deeper into the bone and even the cavities and maybe other internal organs that are not supposed to be entered. So such wounds become more complicated because the possibility of granulating again and healing might take a little longer time than that one that has just affected the top layer, of course. So it's good that as a good medical missionary, as a good a person who really understands what you're doing, you just know that this wound, I'm dealing with a superficial wound. This one, I'm dealing with a deep wound. So it will help you to know what to do. For example, I told you yesterday, if you're dealing with a deep wound, know that possibly the nerves are affected. The patient may not be feeling pain. Why? Because it has cut across and it has damaged the nerves. You're dealing with a superficial wound, that wound will be very painful. Why? Because the nerves are very intact. And so you'll know that this one, all right, I can manage it this way and the other way, of course. So that is concerning the depth of the wound that we studied yesterday. I told you some examples of chronic wounds that we have. One of them is a diabetic foot, which I explained yesterday. I have a septic wound. Septic wounds, I said, is any wound that is infected. Yeah. Especially, you will know that a wound is infected when it's forming pus pockets, or some pus cells are visible. You'll see some cells or some tissues which appear like they have a lot of pus. Others will be appearing like dead cells. That will tell you that wound possibly is septic, it's infected. There's something called necrotizing fasciitis. I'll show you today, and the pressure ulcer, so that we may understand it together. Yesterday, I talked widely about a diabetic foot, and I gave you this one as an example of a patient who had a diabetic foot, and we had to remove all the toes. And you can even see that it is septic. It has some pus. Now, this is how a septic wound looks like. You'll see some pus, yeah. As much as there are these other places which are red, simplifying that it's a clean. These are clean places. But this other side can cause troubles because it's septic, yeah. And remember, yesterday I told you, when you're dealing with a wound, the red the wound, the better it can, or the easier it can heal. A red wound or a clean wound is a healing wound. You get a wound that is septic like this one, that wound will take you time before it heals. So when you're managing such a wound, ensure you're taking a good time to make it clean, make it as red as possible. Yeah. You may need to do a good cleaning so that you can keep it healthy. Yeah. Because these are dead cells. So if you allow them to be there, automatically it will spread. It will make the whole limb to die. And so you will not be doing any good to that patient. It will take a good time before you do a good thing to the patient. So let's be careful with that. I explained that diabetic feet have brought issues, including amputations. People have lost their limbs just because of a diabetic foot. I explained to you more on how to do some simple managements, of which it might not be all that is supposed to be done. Others we will study when we'll be doing skin health as a general thing. But then I quoted from the Ministry of Healing 127 paragraph 1, which gave us a procedure on how to deal with sicknesses, including all elements of the skin. Deal with the cause, know what is causing the problem, change any unhealthful conditions, change any or correct any wrong habits, then assist nature in her efforts to expel impurities from the body and to reestablish the right condition in the system. That is the procedure that should be followed in any or managing any condition in the human body. So I gave you some outlines on how to manage a diabetic foot, including dealing with the cause, that is appropriate management of diabetes itself as a condition, which is a lifestyle thing, a new start as the baseline of all managements. As simple as they may look, they are very important, right? Then we have preventive, including foot care. I explained that, urgent management of any simple wound, and then the wound care itself. So those are the few things we talked about yesterday. Now, today, I want to show you something. So I'm sorry if you may be surprised on the pictures you are seeing, but you'll just bear so that you also understand. All right. So just bear with the photos. You may need some little more strength so that you may observe them if you've never. Now, this is a wound, and I want you to see it so that I explain what it is. We call it necrotizing fasciitis. Necrotizing fasciitis is one of the major dermal problems that we are experiencing today. I don't know the reason why, but I think out of the little research I've done, I have noted that a lot of people are being affected with such a condition called necrotizing fasciitis. This is a condition that starts as a very simple thing. You'll even start as maybe something just pricked you. You had as a very small painful wound, very small, yeah, or just as a simple piercing. But then over time, some 2-3 days, 1 week, it spreads like nothing else. As much as a pathogen has just set in, it spreads seriously. It can even eat the whole limb, it can eat the whole abdomen, can eat the whole neck, yeah. But it spreads. The main characteristic that it has, it spreads so rapidly and it affects the fascia. Now, when I talk about the fascia is just as a layer that is underneath the skin. Immediately after the subcutaneous tissue, you have your fascia, and so it spreads all along through the fascia. So all through, so as much as it has just entered the fascia, it can spread such rapidly that you may not be able to contain it. And so it's a very serious condition that has caused a lot of people losing their limbs and even death. Why? Because the pathogen, it has crossed all the layers of the skin, and when it has crossed all the layers of the skin, automatically it sets into the blood. It causes infections of the infection in the blood. Causing infection in the blood, it makes the whole system to be toxic. And so it's not a simple thing. We need to be very careful. I've seen people, the other problem is because of its rapid development. I know most of the people, or we human beings, we could wish to stay at home with something, yeah. You are injured today, you see, this is something very simple, it can just get off, yeah. But then you when you come notice that this thing has really gone, actually it eats slowly in there. So when you realize that there's a problem, it has already spread, it has killed a lot of tissues. And so you come to maybe you decide to go to a facility, you realize that this is what is happening. It has eaten the whole layer of the skin. Actually, it eats deep, even into the bone. Yeah, we call it necrotizing fasciitis. I've seen people missing such a diagnosis, including, I think I had one patient who was being handled by a given medical missionary at a given point in Nairobi. But then that patient was just, or that medical missionary was just managing a normal wound, only to realize that it was such a serious thing. It was a necrotizing fasciitis. So unfortunate that we lost that patient because of a misdiagnosis. And so when I'm illustrating, I know why I'm doing this. Many people miss such a diagnosis. So when you see something that is behaving such awkwardly, spreading so seriously, mostly it is infected, you will see a good amount of pus. Yeah. So know that is not something to joke with. Now, the following photo is going to disturb you a little bit, but just don't worry. When such a thing happens on the genitalia, mostly it affects the male, but also in the female genitalia, it can also be affected. So when such a thing happens to the genitalia, this is what happens. Now, you need to bear with it a little bit. Yeah. So we call it Fournier's gangrene. When such an infection enters the skin or affects the genitalia of a human being. This is a genitalia of a man, you can imagine, that has been seriously eaten by a gangrenous thing, by the one uh, we call Fournier's gangrene. Yeah. So it's not something that could easily you just look into it and you say, this one I can manage it in a day and I'm done, or I can do it like I could do to any other wound. It's a very serious thing that we need to recognize early, and appropriately work on it. All right. Sorry for such photos. Yeah. You'll bear with me for that. Now, this is an example of a pressure ulcer. Remember, I told you we have at least 4 chronic wounds. These are things that you will always meet people with, even at home, especially these patients who have lifestyle conditions. Maybe someone has a severe form of diabetes, someone has maybe issues, old age, old age. So you'll get most of them are bedridden. And when someone is bedridden and the person cannot turn, you'll get that the part of the body that is in direct contact with the ground or the bed or whatever, it will start developing some sores. So this is an example of a gluteal sore, a sore developing on the gluteus of a person, just because the person has had a long bed stay without turning. So it's a very serious thing as well, because when it becomes infected, it can cause someone to lose his or her life. Why? When these pathogens get into the system, into the blood, they can lead to something we call a septic shock. Someone enters shock out of the infection that has set in already, and that can lead to death. So it's not something also to joke with. The earlier you prevent it, the earlier you detect it, the earlier you work on it, the best. You'll have saved a life somewhere. Now, let me just simply talk about dealing with such chronic wounds. Then I take some few minutes to explain something and call it a day. Now, number one, we said when you deal with any of these chronic wounds, deal with the cause first. And yesterday I explained about Newstat. Check the nutrition of the patient so well. Why? Because you need to build up the immune system of a patient. The immune system is built on right nutrition, taking adequate immune boosters, including vegetables, fruits, and juicing, and all those things that could boost someone's immune system. When the immune system is not adequate, simply that patient is immunocompromised, and little minor infection setting in will put that person down. So ensure a good nutrition. Also, that will also help to prevent or to deal with any underlying condition. So you'll be helping that patient nicely. So make a good meal plan for the patient. Ensure there's appropriate juicing for the patient. Ensure you are dealing or you're targeting. You know what your target is, what your goal is. I'm dealing with this, so I need more of these. All right. Exercise, I think I mentioned it yesterday. Adequate water. That one I'll elaborate it later as we continue. Have adequate sunshine and have temperance, good air, that is pure air, rest nicely, and then trust in God. Those are the basic principles of managing any condition. I've seen people recovering out of just doing adequate and effective Newstat measures. People recover, actually, they get well and they go home out of just those simple things. So dealing with chronic wounds, the same should apply. Start from there. When you've directly and you've maximally ensured that the Newstat is upheld, then you can do the rest. Now, number two, especially for pressure injuries or the pressure ulcers, the one that a patient has stayed bedridden for a while, and then you have to turn the patient. So regular patient turning. Don't allow your patient to stay in one side for a longer time. At least mostly do 2-hourly patient turning. You, after every 2 hours, let the patient be turning and be turning and be turning. You turn the patient. I know some here can be taken to do a home nursing care for a patient, and mostly you'll get these geriatric patients, these patients who are old. They cannot turn themselves, they cannot even feed themselves. So understand that for you to prevent a lot of complications, ensure you're turning the patient rightly. There's this that I talked about yesterday, cleaning with saline water, and I told you how to make some homemade saline water. Boil your water, or you can even add salt, then boil the water, then allow it to cool a little bit. That you'll have made a saline water, which is good for cleaning the wound. Clean it nicely to make it red. Remember, we said when it's red, it's healing. It can easily granulate. It can easily bring back life. It can easily form a new skin. All right. Yeah, so depending on how better you will keep it or how clean you will keep it, the easier early it will heal. All right, then we have dressings. I explained yesterday that when you're doing dressings, ensure you use a sterile dress. Don't just pick any piece of cloth and you just put it on the wound. Why? Because it will be introducing more infections to the wound which are not needed. Now, let me explain about these helpful remedies a little bit. These ones, I've used them and I know they are very powerful. Number one is aloe vera gel. I know you people, you know aloe vera, I think so. Aloe vera gel is very powerful. That whitish pulp, how can I call it? Whitish thing that is in the middle of the aloe vera leaf. That paste, that gel, it's so nice. It's so nice in managing wounds. Actually, it helps in granulations. So you just take the paste as fresh as it is, and then you apply it on the wound. You can allow it to stay until it's dry for just some minutes, and then you can wipe it off. Yeah, but then apply it. It also acts as an antibacterial, so it's a very powerful anti-infective, and it helps the skin to granulate because it contains some clotting factors. So it can also be helpful in avoiding bleeding. Yeah. So just apply it nicely. It will help you. Number two, it's turmeric paste. Turmeric on itself is an antioxidant. Um, it's an anti-infective, yeah, very powerful, especially if mixed with honey. You can make a paste of turmeric and honey, mix them together, apply it to the wound. Yeah. Remember, when you apply this, apply to a clean wound. Ensure you've cleaned the wound nicely. It's red. That's the only point you can apply turmeric and honey paste. Why? It will prevent more infections from setting in and it will aggravate the healing process. So powerful. All right. You can do a coconut oil massage, either naturally made or uh, it has been made elsewhere, but then it's a natural one. Yeah. So you can use that, just apply it. You do some little massages to the wound. It activates the healing process. The last one is comfrey tea. This one, I've used it even in managing cancer. Yeah, in fact, it's very powerful in healing cancerous wounds. Only that when you are going to use this comfrey, ensure that the wound is very clean. Why? That wound closes so fast when you use comfrey tea. So you will get that if the wound is not clean, it will close with the septic, with the infected section still not removed, and that may cause more problems. The wound may come back again. All right. So ensure that the wound is very, very clean. Then when you apply your comfrey tea or the comfrey leaf poultice, you sure that this wound, even if it heals, I don't have a problem with it. It's not septic. All right. So that is the last resort. When you've already done the rest, everything is clean. Now apply your comfrey tea or your comfrey poultice. It will make it to heal very fast. Nice. Now allow me to take some few minutes so that we just complete or deal with wounds at a go and we finish so that tomorrow we can tackle another thing. Now, there's this thing called burns. I'll just take a few minutes to talk about it so that we get the principle. I believe once in a while we've been involved in a burn situation, maybe minor or a severe one, but at least you've seen a person who has been burned. Even that burning there at your kitchen, maybe you're doing some cooking and you sustain some small burn. Yeah, that one is a burn. Yeah, so it can be some mild thing, it can be some severe thing, it can be yeah, depending on the mechanism of injury, what is causing the burn or something like that. All right. Burns can be caused either by heating or by cooling. In fact, the worst burns are the cooling burns. Today, you enter an ice cold sea, or you put a cube of ice on your hand that is so cold that that ice can burn you more than something hot can burn you. So the cold things can burn more than hot things. And in fact, according to the structure of the skin or the integumentary system, we respond easier, or we respond more quickly to cold than to hot. Yeah. So you'll get that before you sense that this thing is hot, it takes some little more time than the easier you will sense that this thing is cold. So that is why we say when something cold can burn you more than something hot. All right. So burns can be caused by a lot of things, including maybe a fire outbreak, maybe that's small minor burn there. Maybe you're doing some cooking and your gas explodes, something like that. Some people can sustain some electric burns. Maybe you're trying to connect some few things there using electricity, and then it just causes some burns. Some people have been burned with lightning, during rainy seasons. A lot of things could cause burns. Some people have been burned with acids and chemicals. All of them are considered burns. All right. So today we just want to understand some some few concepts about burns, and then that will bring us to the end. Now, some few concerns to know about burns, regardless of what has caused the burn, whether it has been caused by electricity, whether it has been caused by smoke, whether it has been caused by a chemical or some fire outbreak, whatever has caused the burn. These are the few concerns that we need to take into consideration. Number one, someone sustains a burn. One of our greatest worries, or the most serious worries that we have, number one is there is a lot of fluid loss. You may not visibly see the fluid being lost, right? You may not visibly see the fluids being lost. Why? Because you will not see that this is a fluid coming out. No, there's that internal loss of fluid. Why? That heat that has just come in contact with the skin. Remember, we said the major functions of your integumentary system, one of them is thermal regulation, to maintain and to make sure that your temperatures are kept in a constant level. When they are high, they're brought back to level. When they're low, they're brought back to level, right? So when that heat comes in contact with your skin, you lose, there's that evaporation. Now you've lost your skin completely. It goes with everything, So the fluid, there's a lot of fluid loss out of your skin. So when you're dealing with a patient who has sustained a burn, know that one of the serious things that you need to watch and to is the fluid losses. And that's why mostly we do fluid replacement, because someone has lost a lot of fluids. Number two, inability to control and to maintain your body temperature. This, I think, is self-explanatory. You've lost the skin, and the skin is the one that is responsible for controlling your temperatures. So if you lose the skin, you're not controlling the temperatures. Most of the burn patients will feel colder than how other people feel, because their temperatures are not being controlled. The other delicate internal organs have been exposed to the direct air, which is not supposed and it's not expected. All right. So that is or forms a serious concern in a burn patient. All right. Then number three, which is also very critical, is the setting in of an infection. Any burn wound that allows an infection to set in becomes a chronic wound. It becomes a very serious thing that will need a lot of care for you to manage such a wound. So the earlier we will halt the introduction of an infection into a burn wound, the better we will help that patient. All right. Apart from these three, there are many others, but let me just add one. We also worried about the proteins. Remember, I didn't mention this, but among the functions of your integumentary system is maintaining anything that is within. So mostly when someone sustains a burn, that person is at risk of losing a lot of proteins and through the fluids and all those things. So you lose these proteins, you will get that someone will easily sustain injuries to other cells and tissues, because proteins are needed to keep the system working and the cells repaired and all those things. All right. So it becomes a very serious concern. Now, let me repeat that these are the three major concerns we have in a burn patient, or when you sustain a burn: loss of fluids, inability to maintain your temperatures, and setting in of an infection. Those are the very serious things we need to take into consideration. Now, let me just illustrate some few things. Maybe these ones you know, but I want you to appreciate that this is what we have. All right. So a burn can either be a superficial thing, depending on which layer of the skin has been entered. Now, remember our anatomy. We said that the skin is made up of three major layers: the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis, which contains fat. So depending on which layer is affected, you will know that this is just a simple burn and it can heal after a short time. You can also know that this is not just a simple burn, I need something else. And you'll also know that there are burns which even go deeper to the bone level. So such is a serious burn, and you need to know how much you can do to help it. Now, let me just give you some few features of a superficial burn. This is the one that just affects the first layer, the epidermis of your skin. Mostly it's very red. I think I don't know if you've sustained this, but I think a good number of people must have sustained such a burn. Yeah, it's very superficial. Red, mostly painful because we have intact nerves. Remember, nerves are in the dermis. So if the epidermis is the one affected, you will always see that the wound is the burn is very painful because the nerves are still intact. Mostly, these are burn that you if you allow it to stay, it will heal on its own. Just after a week or so, you'll just get that it is healing over that time. Yeah. Then we have the second burn. This one has gone a deeper level. I think that picture can help you to appreciate. Um, Most people sustain such burns. Why? Because you will get that the epidermis is so small that it can always be bypassed. Yeah. So you get a given burn that has gone deeper into the dermis. That's what you call a partial thickness burn. This one is mostly salmon pink in color, sometimes very moist and shiny. It's also painful because the nerves are still intact. Then, depending on the depth, remember I told you it may take some time to heal. These are the burns which mostly have a lot of blisters. Yeah. So you get them, you know that this one might need more time to heal, or I need to be more aggressive on tackling it more than the other superficial burn. All right. Then lastly, we have lastly, we have the full thickness burn. Now, a full thickness burn has covered almost actually all the three layers of your skin. So it is deep. It's a deep burn. All right. So it goes all through the epidermis, the dermis, and has gone deeper into the underlying structures. Others have even gone deeper into the bones. So they are mostly thick, they're dry, they may be gray in color, or sometimes they appear like they're charred black. They are painless. I mean, they are painless because the nerves have now been damaged. So someone may not be feeling any pain when you sustain such a burn. These are we call them major burns. Why? Because they have really gone deep, all right? And also depending on the surface that is affected. Most burns that affect serious structures are considered critical. For example, if you get a person today who has sustained a burn and the respiratory system is involved, or maybe some joint is involved, you get maybe let's say those two, or it's we call it circumferential burn. It's covering how can I say, for example, if it's your hand, it's going circumferentially all round. Those are critical burns because they can cause more trouble than these other burns. So that is simply about burns. I just wanted you to have a principle understanding. When you see this, this one might need more serious management than this one. This one may not need too much to be done. Maybe I can just do this simple, and then I'll be done with the burn. So that is simply about the burn. You may decide to estimate the surface area of the burn, and this is the main method I'll want you to use. In any case, it's needed. Yeah. So you will get that mostly. For example, you have a person who the whole back is burnt, or the whole abdomen is burnt, or the whole head is burnt. You should know maybe how many percentage of the total surface area of that patient has been affected. So mostly we usually use the patient's palm. So you'll just say that the palm of the patient equals to 1% of the total body surface area of that patient. So estimate how many palms could be accommodated in the burnt area. If you accommodate 20 palms of the patient, that equals to 20% of the total surface area that has been burnt. All right. So that is the easiest to use. It helps you and it informs you on your management. All right. Now, how can we deal with burns? I'm just giving a simple sketch, and then maybe in our last session, when we'll be talking about skin health and reversing some few things, we'll be able to understand deeper. Now, how do we deal with burns? Number one, you get a patient. Let's start from the point maybe the patient is burning. Now, the first thing to do is to evacuate the patient if possible. Evacuating the patient means stopping the burning process. There are people who, I think we've seen people rushing into rooms which are burning, and you want to remove a patient from that point. Yeah. Maybe most of the time we are not involved in such an incident, we will always get the patients when they are already out of the burning point. All right. But then in any case, you meet a patient or you meet a burning process ongoing, stop it. Yeah. Evacuate the patient from that place if possible, also putting in mind that you need not to risk your very own life. All right. Then after there's an emergency management for a minor burn. Major burns, those that have gone so deep, or maybe the patient has inhaled some gases, those ones you may not be able to remove. Yeah, you get a third degree burn that has caused a problem, that has burned the whole of a patient's chest. Yeah, that is a burn that may need some more critical care than just a simple and a minor burn. So the one I'm giving you is how to manage emergently a minor burn. That one that maybe a superficial, or maybe the one that has just gone a little bit into the dermis. Mostly we run cold water, tap water, make it run. Yeah, it helps to cool down, and apart from cooling down, it helps to remove any toxins that may be accompanied with the burn. All right, so run some good tap water on the burnt area. Even if it's the whole body, just run some tap water. Yeah, remember, number one, you started by categorizing the burn. If it's a critical burn, you see that may not work, look for more help so that you may not lose a life. Yeah. Then apart from that, potato poultices are very good, especially for minor burns. So you can use a cooked potato or a raw potato, but a cooked potato has proved to be more effective. So you just cook your Irish potatoes, and then when they have cooked nicely, you just make a paste and you apply to your burn. That one helps to cause or to fasten the healing of that burn. Another one that I already explained when you're dealing with chronic wounds is the use of honey and turmeric. Myself, I usually use this for emergency management of a simple burn and maybe a second degree burn that has some blisters. Yeah, just take your honey, that is a medicinal fresh medicinal honey. Yeah, medicinal honey. Take some turmeric, make a paste. After making a paste, just apply. Don't deblister the burn. If it has formed blisters, don't blister them. Don't deblister them, sorry. Because you deblister them, you'll be causing a wound. A wound is tougher to manage than just a blister. Mostly those blisters, they just heal themselves. So it's not a must that you deblister. You can allow them to stay. But then apply your honey mixed with turmeric as a paste. They will just heal. All right. That one you can apply even 3 times or 4 times a day, as much as you can. But then don't do it so frequent, because honey on its own, if you allow it to stay, especially if you've used a lot of honey, it can also cause a burning effect. So just use some little honey with the turmeric powder, make a paste, apply it, allow it to stay for some few minutes, wash it out. Stay again, do a second time, a third time, a fourth time. It will fasten the healing. Now, for the burn wound itself, as any other burn or any other wound could be managed, do a regular cleaning and dressing. And I told you, when you do cleaning, do saline water. We may not need to do all the things that people do. You're using hydrogen peroxide. I think I cautioned you against that yesterday. You can use vinegar. Yeah, vinegar can be used in cleaning the wound. So if you get it, especially the one that has a lower concentration, that one can be used. It's a good one as well. Number 2, keep free from infection. So we said you can dress the wound using a sterile cloth. Because if you allow the patient to just maybe walk with the burn wound, or maybe do some activities with it and it's open, you are risking the patient from infections. Some pathogens can set in, and it can make the process of healing so much complicated. I've already talked about honey and turmeric. You can apply to the wound. But another technique is you can use fresh milk. Make a paste of fresh milk combined with turmeric. Then that one is best used when the patient is sleeping. Apply it at night, and then it will be nice. All right. Apart from that, we said among the major concerns in a burn wound is the loss of fluids. So ensure that you are rehydrating the patient as much as you can. As much as the patient can feed, make sure that the principle of taking water is upheld. Rehydrate the patient as much as you can. Take plenty of water. You may not just take water. We have fluids. We have even fruits that contain a lot of water, including watermelons and the rest. So rehydrate the patient as much as you can. You'll be doing a good job, right? Then antioxidants. The problem with the burn wounds, they don't heal because of oxidative properties. So if you use a lot of antioxidant plant-based meals, you will be helping the patient to heal faster, or the wound to heal faster. Antioxidants are really are found much in fruits and foods that are rich in vitamin E's and vitamin A's. They have a lot of antioxidants, and those are foods that even used in managing cancer, because cancer needs some good antioxidants because it's an oxidative process. So use a lot of fruits, foods rich in vitamin E, foods rich in vitamin A. A lot of vegetables, they will help you in that. I told you in burns, people lose a lot of proteins, and most of the patients, in any case, they make their way to the conventional hospitals. You'll get that we will always order them to buy something we call albumin infusion. We have to add them some proteins, so that we can keep the body in the right condition of the proteins needed. But then at home, the patient loses some proteins. Ensure that in your meal plan, you put your meal plan in such a way that you have a high protein diet to take part, a good part of the diet of the patient, so that the patient does not risk other tissue injuries or cell injuries out of lacking the proteins. Other helpful remedies I've already explained while we were dealing with managing chronic wounds. Aloe vera gel, turmeric paste, of course, combined with honey if possible, coconut oil massage, and then comfrey when the wound is very clean. Yeah, the burn wound is very clean, it's red. Now you want it to granulate, you can apply some comfrey tea or some comfrey leaf poultice. It will fasten the granulation and the healing of the wound. Now, allow me to stop there for today. Uh, I could really pray that if possible, you people share your questions, and maybe whatever you've seen or you've experienced on the integumentary system, maybe from your homes, from your friends' point, on an individual basis, and you could wish that we respond to them, you could better share them. We'll make the study more practical and more targeted. Otherwise, we will talk about much more on skin conditions in our coming lessons. Allow me to pray so that we come to an end for today. Let's pray. Our dear loving Father, thank you for the session. We thank you that we've learned, dear Lord. May you help us that above all, we may lessen the suffering of those that perhaps are affected by such conditions. And by all means, we may use these as a means to evangelize and to bring more souls to the kingdom. May you help us to even learn more and more as your will may be. Our prayer by faith in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Elder. Just a few announcements to the students. There's an assignment that was given on the cardiovascular system, and it's actually due tomorrow. A few of us out of the 19 students, only 5 have done the assignment. So you can remind your friends to actually try and do the assignment. Yeah. And then the other thing is okay, thank you. So the other announcement is, aside from the assignment, our attendance and the lateness has been quite low compared to the very first weeks that we began the training. So probably we can as well look at that. We have always purposed to begin our meetings at 8, but for the first 3 weeks, mostly we've been joining late at around 8:15. So if there is any challenge, you can always let us know. There is a Google form that will be sent to our group in the course of the day, so that we can feel our feedback. So you can watch out. You can watch out for it. So thank you everyone for attending today's session, and may the Lord bless each and every one of you and keep you. Have a blessed night.
Amen.